Hello, my friends. I am Adam and I review things. I'm trying to be the most prolific reviewer of all time. So, generally, I review books, movies, plays, podcasts, whatever. And today I am reviewing a book called Talking with Serial Killers, Sleeping with Psychopaths by Christopher Berry-Dee. So, Christopher Berry-Dee is a criminologist who has a series of books called Talking with Psychopaths, Talking with Serial Killers, and I think that there's about 10 books in the series, and this is one of them. And it deals not so much with the serial killers themselves, but with the people who are in relationships with them and people who, for the most part, didn't know what their partners were doing and for the most part are kind of victims as well. Although it's complicated because there's in one instance there's this immigrant lady who was married to a serial killer and then she didn't have anything so she stayed in his house and kind of materially benefited from this relationship because they were married. Um But for the most part, it's sort of a litany of people who are kind of shocked at the fact that their loved one was turned out to be a serial killer, or people who um, barely escaped with their lives because they were about to be the next victim of the serial killer. And it ranges from some of the most famous serial killers you've heard about probably are or their love interests are featured in the book, like Ted Bundy, uh, the BTK killer, Peter Sutcliffe in England, and to people that you haven't really heard about who are also serial killers. And the book is kind of a refreshing tone, I would say, because I've been I just finished this series by Peter Green, and basically his style is to write from the perspective of the killer, and sometimes it's really quite effective and chilling, and sometimes it doesn't work at all because there's not enough evidence or the killing happened 200 years ago, so how are you supposed to know the perspective of that individual? But this Dee's writing is much different. It's very personal, very from his own experience, and he goes out and he writes to these serial killers, and the serial killers write to him, and they involve him in their lives. There's like this one point where the girlfriend of one serial killer gave Dee, who was the author, gave him a car and a moped that belonged to the serial killer, and so he couldn't use it because I don't know why, but yeah, so he sold it, and then the serial killer was like, "Hey, about that thing that my ex-girlfriend gave to you, could you like give it back?" And he's like, "No, no, 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 no." So he has this like kind of clever way of ingratiating himself with these killers, and one, I think it's just to make a good story, but the other is sometimes it actually has a positive effect. Like he basically was lying to this one killer that if he tells him where one body is, he'll come to the wedding, he'll be the best man, etc., etc. And it was a complete lie. So the serial killer said that, um, and then the author just left and had no further contact with him. And one, it's not the main focus of the book, but it's certainly mentioned, which is quite interesting, and it's like a fascinating phenomenon. So we have these men who are killers of women by definition, for the most part. They have groupies. Like, why would you write to somebody who, if they were free, they might kill you? But I think that's kind of the attraction. And there are, of course, there are female serial killers as well, And there are like men groupies of these serial killers as well, but he was saying that something a bit more dangerous happens to the men than to the women. So the women serial killers will find out all that they can about this person who's writing to them, and they'll just send their friends to pay a visit and rob and extort the guy. So, yeah, if you've ever been tempted to write a lady in prison, then maybe don't. Or at least don't share any personal information that can identify you. And yeah, don't fall in love with them. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. The writing is funny. The stories are interesting. So I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. So not perfect, but much better than the true crime stuff I've been reading recently. Okay, thanks. Bye bye.